Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the City of Revere Human Rights Commission. Currently, we're at the City Council Chambers, or you can meet us over Zoom. And I am now calling the December 7th, 2023 meeting to order. First, we're going to start off with roll call of commissioners. Dr. Garcia,
Present.
Commissioner Crew Pitch,
Here.
Chief Bright,
Here.
Attorney Molly McGee,
Present.
and HRC Director Claudia Correa.
Present.
As for Chief Callahan and Reverend Tim Bogerman, they will not be joining us for tonight's meeting. Before we move on to the rest of the agenda items, we would like to make an land acknowledgement on the land that we are standing on today. We are in the land of the Pawtucket, and for now and all future meetings, we invite any Indigenous peoples or First Nations peoples to either join our meetings or interact with the HRC to the best of their capabilities. For the approvals of the November 2nd monthly meeting, can I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve, Madam Chair. Second.
Thank you very much. For December's monthly meeting, monthly acknowledgements, December 1st was the start of the Human Rights Month and World AIDS Day. December 7th, as today, is Pearl Harbor Remembrance Day. Today and up until December 15th is Hanukkah. December 10th is International Human Solidarity Day. December 21st is the winter solstice. From December 24 to 25 is Christmas Eve and Christmas, respectively. December 26th to January 1st is Kwanzaa. For some of the events that are going on throughout the meeting on Wednesday, December 13th, which is next week, from 5 to 7 p.m. at the Revere High School Learning Commons will be cultural proficiency with Dr. Khaleesi Warnham, and also at the Revere High School Learning Commons the next day, December 14th, will be family engagement night from 7:30 to 5:30 to 7:30, and it focuses on issues that many immigrants go through, whether it be finance or education, amongst other things. So definitely check both of those events out. The flyers and more information will be posted on the HRC website and the Revere website. Moving on to our next agenda item is just the acknowledgement that December, like I've mentioned before, December is Universal Human Rights Month, and that December 10th is Universal Human Rights Day, and that's going to be the main subject of our meeting today. After World War II in 1948, the United Nations declared the Declaration of Equal Rights for all human beings, and actually this year marks the 75th anniversary of that declaration. In a moment, we will be presenting a video that really just goes into more details of how this declaration came to be after World War II. And whenever we are ready, the video will be presented right now.
Where, after all, do universal human rights begin?
After World War II, it was clear that the horrors of the war should never be allowed to occur again. Founded in 1945, the United Nations sought to prevent future atrocities by affirming, in its foundational charter, faith in fundamental human rights, the dignity and worth of the human person, and a commitment to promote better standards of life in larger freedom. In the years that followed, member states of the United Nations strived to develop the human rights provisions of the Charter and capture them in a single document. It took 3 years to agree on a common vision. On the 10th of December, 1948, the General Assembly of the United Nations adopted the Universal Declaration of Human Rights as a common standard of achievement for all peoples and all nations.
Still, it is the first step in a great evolutionary process. It is the first occasion on which the organised community of nations has made a declaration of human rights and fundamental freedoms, and it has the authority of the body of opinion of the United Nations as a whole. And millions of people, men and women and children all over the world, will turn for hope and guidance and inspiration to this document.
While history alone can determine the historic significance of an event, it is safe to say that the declaration before us may be destined to occupy an honorable place in the procession of positive landmarks in human history.
The Declaration consists of a preamble and 30 articles, with Article 1 powerfully proclaiming that all human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights. No discrimination, right to life, liberty and security, no slavery, no torture or cruel, inhuman or degrading treatment or punishment, equal protection of the law, no arbitrary arrest, detention or exile, fair and public hearing, no arbitrary interference with privacy, right to freedom of movement, right to seek and enjoy asylum, right to a nationality, right to marry and to found a family, right to property, freedom of thought, conscience and religion, freedom of opinion and expression, freedom of peaceful assembly and association, right to take part in government, right to work, right to rest and leisure, right to food, clothing, housing, medical care and social services, right to education, right to participate in cultural life.
These human rights are not country-specific. They are not a reward for good behavior or particular to a certain era or social group. They are the rights of people of every color, from every race and ethnic group, whether or not they have disabilities, citizens or migrants, no matter their sex, their class, their caste, their creed, their age, or sexual orientation.
The Declaration has generated action for human rights protection in many ways. It has inspired hundreds of human rights instruments that together constitute international human rights law and a number of international bodies and mechanisms for human rights protection. The principles of the Declaration have supported the decolonization struggle and have been enshrined in the constitutions of the newly established countries which have joined the United Nations. The Declaration has inspired national and regional human rights protection systems, including legislation and institutions. And it continues to guide the work of human rights defenders and advocates worldwide. Today, the Declaration is available in more than 500 languages and dialects, and it has obtained the Guinness World Record for the most translated document in the world. The 10th of December, the day on which the Declaration was adopted, is celebrated each year as Human Rights Day. The Declaration emphasizes the relevance of human rights in our daily lives.
Where, after all, do universal human rights begin? In small places close to home, so close and so small that they cannot be seen on any maps of the world. Yet they are the world of the individual person, the neighborhood he lives in, the school or college he attends, the factory, farm, or office where he works. Such are the places where every man, woman, and child seeks equal justice, equal opportunity, equal dignity without discrimination. Unless these rights have meaning there, they have little meaning anywhere. Without concerted citizen action to uphold them close to home, we shall look in vain for progress in the larger world.
All Okay. With that being said, even
It's Michael's big.
even after this declaration has been established for 75 years now, it just shows that all these goals and expectations are still something that we have to uphold to this day, and especially as the Human Rights Commission, this is something, it's our job and our duty for these rights and declarations to be implemented within our city and really enforced. And that it's, you know, it's our goal to fulfill this promise to the people of Revere. And just so we could just commemorate this month and commemorate the promise that's being made, I think the best way that we all decided to really talk about what human rights means to us and just open that discussion was to have it in a circle format, which is how we are right now. This circle is actually going to be spearheaded by Dr. Garcia and Commissioner Carew Pitch. And whenever you folks are ready, I will hand the mic off to you.
Good evening, everyone. It's my pleasure and honor to be here at in the circle again with my fellow commissioners. Thank you so much. And so we're going to spend probably an hour or so in a circle together. So just to refresh everyone's memory that the circle is a gift that have been gifted by the Native American First Nation. The circle process has been used for many, many years by the First Nation to practice in a community, to address harm, to address acumen, disagreement, to also celebrate, use it as a form of governance, to promote equity within the community and within the circle members. So I just want to acknowledge the land and acknowledge the gift that has been given. Also, as you see, there's a centerpiece. Centerpiece is used to is used for the focal point. It's a reminder for all of us to speak and listen from the heart space. And the talking piece is sacred. The person that has the talking piece is the one who can speak, and the rest is an invitation to listen. We use talking piece as a clockwise, so we pass it on the left side of our hand. And there's no cross-talking when someone has a talking piece, and your job is just to listen. It's an invitation to listen from the heart and listen to understand, not listen to respond. So are we ready to start the circle? I'm going to pass this to Dr. Garcia. I am thankful and privileged to have Dr. Garcia co-host this circle process with me. Thank you, Dr. Garcia.
Thank you. I'm going to open the circle with the following quote. A right delayed is a right denied. This quote, his wonderful words actually came from Dr. King. Let's just think a little bit about this powerful quote. A right delayed is a right denied. To me, personally, this quote has a powerful message to transmit. It basically, Dr. King is basically telling us that when it comes to act and making decisions, we should not delay it. We should act in the right moment, because when we do delay decisions, that delay may cause more harm than anything else. It may deny people opportunities. And unfortunately, in our city, decisions sometimes are delayed, whether conscious or unconscious, but those decisions are delayed. And unfortunately, the number of people that are caught in between decisions that are made by those who are in position of powers and authority without really thinking the action really affects so many of our people, immigrants, African Americans. We know the demographics of our city. And I urge all of us who are in power, including people of color, who are in position of power and privilege, because I do believe I have a lot of privilege because of my position. And I have to acknowledge that we need to work better to make sure that we do everything in our power to ensure that people who are being harmed, whom decisions that are being delayed, being cause more harm than anything else. So we need to work together to make sure that we respond effectively, timely, so that we can, alleviate some of the harm that those people are facing. So but I'd like to do a check-in, which is, what are you grateful for today? I'll start with myself. Yep. I should have done that, actually. I'm grateful to the work that we are trying to do, the changes we're trying to make in our city, and this small group of people. I'm grateful that you're here. We are talking about issues that really matter to our community. I'm grateful for the support you got provided to the Human Rights Commission since the beginning. We've been on this journey at least for, I would say, probably 3 years. And I'm grateful to be alive, enjoy your camaraderie, your friendship, and continue your professionalism and teamwork, let's put it that way, because I do believe in teamwork, and that's what I'm grateful for.
Thank you, Dr. Garcia. Today I am grateful for many things. I'm grateful for the community that I'm living in Revere. I'm grateful for my families and friends, co-workers and community. I am also mostly grateful right now in the company of all my commissioners. So I'm grateful for your presence. It means a lot, and your commitment to make change for the better for our community, and for everyone to create a sense of belonging here.
Thank you very much. I'm likewise very grateful for many things, but I'm called to just mention how grateful I am for my family, specifically my children, who are children here in Revere, and they're my motivating factor for wanting to continue to do this work here in this city. I see children as the future, and a lot of us have that in common in our work that we do with the kids here in Revere, and I'm so grateful for them and that desire that they put in me to want to make a better tomorrow.
Thank you, Molly. I'm grateful. I have a lot to be grateful for. Grateful for my family. Grateful for my friends. Grateful for the members of my department, my coworkers. everybody in the community. I've seen a lot of changes over the years in this community, and I think it is going in the right direction, which I'm glad to still be here to see that. There's still a lot more work to be done, but there's no doubt in my mind that we are going to be successful in moving to a place where everyone feels like they belong here, and we'll all be better for that, I know a right delayed is a right denied, but I think I've learned over my professional life, anything's worth fighting for, you got to be relentless, and you can't give up, and at the end of the day, you will prevail. And I think my co-commissioners feel the same way. I'm grateful for you and the work that you're doing, and to be here to share this holiday season with everybody.
Thank you. I think I'll just echo what my fellow commissioners have also mentioned. Alhamdulillah, I have a family that I could fall back on, and I have friends who support me, and I have fellow commissioners who also have the same vision as I am. So, alhamdulillah for that. Alhamdulillah for also just for the man upstairs for giving me a completely unbothered mind, especially in the work that we do, because when you get too emotional, and that's when your vulnerabilities get the best of you. So I'm also thankful for that. Alhamdulillah. There you go.
Thank you. I'm also grateful for many things. Obviously, I should start grateful for my health, for the energy to get up every day and to do what I consider needs to be done, to be able to hug my children, which also are my biggest motivation, and to be able to share this great work with you. I'm grateful for this city. I love this city, so I'm grateful for everything that surrounds me right now and every day. So especially obviously for my health, but for being here, obviously.
So before we begin with series of questions and conversations, I just want to ask us as a group, what do you need to give yourself and from others to bring your best self here? So I'll start. I think I just need to be gentle with myself. That's what I'm going to give myself. And I am going to be fully present here. And what I need from others, from our team, is an invitation to share deeper from the heart space. Thank you.
In Circle, it's always my goal to actively listen and not prepare what I am going to say. That is to say, speak from the heart and be actively engaged. I am new and learning at this. And from my co-commissioners, I ask for grace in all of these sometimes awkward experiences in Circle as I learn how to do it, and an openness that I know I have from all of you as we do this work together. I think we have that understanding, but just similarly an invitation to do deeper work or speak more about things that sometimes maybe we don't always speak about.
I think from what I need from my perspective, for myself, probably just to, really pace myself, live in the moment, in the present, more, and really focus on that, and really just enjoy your time, every single day. For my fellow commissioners, I don't need much. I mean, everyone shows up, everyone works hard here. You know, we're carrying the banner, and you know, we're not going anywhere. And so I really don't need, we don't need much. I think we all work well together, and I appreciate each and every one of you.
Thank you. I'm just gonna echo what Molly said. This circle process is also very much new to me. So the more as I go along this journey, the more I'm just gonna learn how to go about circles. I think just really reminding myself to not prepare questions ahead of time, because it's an automatic thing that I think most of us, or at least I'll speak for myself, at least I have a really hard time not doing. But yeah, just really focusing on what everyone is saying, and then when it comes to my position, it's like something that really does come from the heart. So that's as for everyone else. Just being here is just enough motivation for me to speak my mind. So yeah, thank you for that.
Obviously, well, what I can offer for me is definitely be open-minded and continue to learn. I cannot say, like most of you, but this is also new for me, and I'm here to say that I'm going to give it everything that I have and be very open-minded. And I asked for everyone that's sitting here and whoever is listening to do exactly what we just did, be thankful and take advantage of every moment, every second, every opportunity. That's why it's called an opportunity. Take it. So, thank you.
For me, this is a this is a learning journey. I obviously I'm open all the time to learn new things. I've been exposed to circles probably, I would say, since 2014 through Suffolk University. Obviously, as the years evolved and went on, I learned new tricks, new strategies, new ways of dealing with things. Circle is an opportunity for us to build relationships and connect with each other. That's what Circle is all about, is to be fully present, understand, do some reflection, some introspection to connect with ourselves first. And then once you are in a good space to do that, then you can connect with others through positive relationships. Now we have, I'm going to move to the medicine will. And I'm going to ask the first question, which is, what rights should all humans have? To me, this is one of the most crucial questions that, connect us as human beings and as members of this Human Rights, Revere Human Rights Commission. Even the title, the rights. I think you all saw the video that talks about the declaration of the Human Rights Universal Declaration, and it essentially talks about those things. A human without rights, it's a person without freedom, right? You don't have rights, you don't have freedom. Those things go together. So when I think about this, I think about people who live on Palestine right now. Their rights are being violated right and left, being killed right and left. And I'm sure that the same way, same thing has happened in Israel and many other parts of the world. But what's happening in Palestine and the velocity and speed in which events are happening, with children, adults, elderly being deprived of rights that they have. It's certainly, regardless of our political views and perspectives, it really touches my heart. And I question, where is the Declaration of Human Rights?
For me, I think every human have the rights to basic needs, such as food, shelters, education, healthcare, and also the right to be free from all form of oppressions. I think that's fundamental for me.
The video, it would seem, outlined a number of the rights that have been enumerated. It's hard to pick my favorite. Freedom from oppression seems to be the one that has been most widely interpreted, and the right to freedom feels like the one that we talk about the most in so many different ways. So its various forms and how it's been interpreted over these past 75 years, I would say, freedom and the right to be free from oppression is what we could spend hours and hours talking about, not just this hour.
I'll echo, my fellow commissioners, freedom, and what Karu had mentioned, basic human rights is, everyone should have, be sheltered, have enough food to eat, have health care, just basic things, that every human should have, especially now we're entering, the winter season. I start thinking about this more often as the city's gets ready to prepare for, the homeless population and opening a warming center and all these other things. And these are real, serious concerns. And we have a long way to go in this country for that. We kind of value, I think, money, overall, and maybe, greed is rewarded more, and some of our politics is a little ill these days. It has been for, a while now, and we have a lot to improve, really, in that direction. But basic human rights, everyone should not have to worry about not having shelter, food, health care, education, your basic needs to give people a shot at a decent life.
I think I will also just echo what everyone said in terms of the need, like the freedom to basic human essentials like clean water or food, a home, is something that really sits with me, only because people that I represent, and like people who I consider like my people, so like fellow Muslims, fellow Arabs, especially with like the stuff that's going between Philistine and Israel, these are things that are not being met, that haven't been met since the Declaration of Human Rights. So like ever since 1948, especially when the Nakba happened, and it's like this is something that has been deprived for these people for so long. And then it also comes down to like this stuff isn't even being met in the country that's being called so great, which is America. I don't know if this is the statistic now, but a couple years ago, more people had access to phones rather than clean water, which is like an issue in its own, and is something that's still prevalent in our city today. So like just really focusing on that, and it just shows that like we not we as like people, but we as a society value more things than others, and those things that we end up valuing are more important than the things that we actually need. So yeah, that's my thoughts on that.
I think most of you cover basic needs. I always think about kids, being selfish because I have kids. So I always want to make sure that they have shelter, that they have food. But one thing that I think every human should has this right is be able to express their beliefs, as long as they're not hurting anyone else, and without fear that, I mean, we are who we are physically, but also we are who we are because what we believe. And I think we should have rights to be able to express that and not be afraid of doing that. Those two, obviously.
Thank you. So the next question under the medicine will is, what ways do certain what ways thank you what ways do certain rules not work as intended when looking to give everyone equal and equitable rights? I'm going to repeat this question, which is, what ways do certain rules not work as intended when looking to give everyone equal and equitable rights? That's a very heavy question, right? It's a heavy question, but also thought-provoking. On the one hand, the way I interpret this question is, on the one hand, we create rules and we say everyone is equal. Everyone has the rights to protection, food, water, etc., etc. But then, is it a rhetoric in many respects, or is it something that we're wishing intentionally and we acting intentionally to make sure those things happen to everyone? That's my interpretation. And it's not one's fault. The system is set up a particular way. And here we are talking about rights, right to water, food. And in this country alone, 5 out of every 10 children in this country go hungry every single day. Right? So we have come a long way. We have done some substantial and significant work in our country, but just imagine, the number of kids that go hungry every year, 5 out of 10. That's basically talking about, you can do your own research, talking about 50%. And the question is, who are those kids? So it gives us a lot of things to think about creating mechanisms and rules, and then whom those rules are working for, who's benefiting from those rules, and who are creating those rules.
That question is deep. There's a couple of things that came to mind. One is the right to bear arms. So I'm working with survivor of domestic violence. When there's an incident of domestic violence, and when when there is a gun involved with the incidents of domestic violence, and it increases the chance of domestic violence homicide by 2,000%. That's huge. So So many of survivors of domestic violence have been killed by their partner who has a gun, or partners who have guns. And then also there's so many shootings here in this country. There's so many guns violence. And yeah, when we create that rules, that law and policy, I question who's benefiting from that, right? And then I'm also questioning the immigration law as well. And does it work? It doesn't. We're just looking at the history of the United States of America and just looking back to the colonization, to the there have been violence that happen, but many laws that have put in, and especially the rules and law that work against indigenous community and then also black communities. And in the results of gun, I think I would say black men are in danger of being killed every day. Black boys and black men. So I question that a lot.
Keeping in the theme of children, when I heard the question from the wheel, I immediately thought of special education and access to education in schools. How can we make things equitable and have everybody have equal access and try to make things fair? I think the declaration that we're celebrating in a couple days and we're here commemorating today is an indication this takes a very long time. This is 75 years now, and we're working in the 21st century to make sure people have access. Everybody, all the differently abled individuals have access to enjoy the same things that we all enjoy and have access to the same things we're saying are human basic rights. Thank you so much for naming immigration, Commissioner Pitch. That systems that have been put in place to try to help people that then don't work out the way they should is probably a good summary of some of our humanitarian immigration programs here in the United States that affect the communities that we represent and directly work with. And then the idea that this is all indigenous land that we are on, and now, again, in the 21st century, we acknowledge that, and we have made a return to many indigenous and First Nations practices, yet still regulate this occupied territory that we remain on based on a system of laws that we probably, as a country, originally sought to escape from and then set up our own new laws. But doesn't that go down some other different type of wormhole? Thank you for naming immigration. I think those are systems that I specifically hope to work as a part of making major reforms in, navigating in the near future, and navigating here for the people in Revere that I'm so excited to see the community sharing with the RAIN Center, and the RAIN Center offering services to community members in Revere. That remains at my heart, and that was the reason why I originally became involved in this commission.
No, thank you for those wonderful points raised. Hunger, I mean, that's really disturbing to think 5 and 10 children go to bed hungry at night. That's, I mean, come on. That should not be in this country. We have to do a lot better than that. And the work, I know Dr. Garcia, you do so much work in the school department to try to make things right. And Carew at Harbor Cove, with the work you do, I don't even know how you do it, but the issue of gun violence is mind-boggling. I don't even understand how we're this far down that road and incapable of, passing any, meaningful legislation to try to help stem gun violence at all. Very, very discouraging. And I know Attorney McGee, with all the work she does in immigration for the city, there's so much work. That issue's been kicked around now since probably the 70s, I want to say, immigration, and nothing really meaningful has been done about it. And everyone knows it has to be addressed. So those are really all great issues we need to work on a lot. And, we got to find the momentum to get, push it over the finish line and get it to a better place. So.
In pertaining to the specific question, I don't have an answer to that. I mean, I definitely have an approach of how I would, and it just comes down to what you said, to what most people have said in terms of just how the system has been placed within society, and just keep in mind, based off what I've seen from a lot of institutions, is that the rules that are being placed is to fulfill some sort of capitalistic agenda. Yes, sometimes you see the list of rules and all that, and you're just like, yeah, this should work out. We'll put these rules in order to either to regulate the things that we can do, and that we could provide all these things to the general human population. But at the end of the day, there are checks and balances, and be like, how can we make money out of this? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not beneficial for an institution to just keep on using money. Money has to come in some way. And I think that's, we could speak about America, but I think ultimately that's how most of the countries internationally work. It's like, we can't just keep on giving money. We need the rules that we place in can somehow benefit us as well. And that, like, the one thing that I've heard from something that I've read on the internet is just like a good compromise is when both sides lose something. However, that's not something that we see in our current society, because someone is always getting more than the other. And that's how I'm gonna approach that question. I can't think of any certain laws at the certain rules at the current moment that we're like, oh yeah, that definitely fits the prompt. But the general thought behind some of the rules of the big institutions is, how can we make money out of this while supposedly helping people, or at least on the surface look like they're helping people. So that's just my thoughts on it.
So what type of rules I think are getting in the way to address what most of us have been talking about, especially around hunger? It goes back to education as well. I mean, to really teach society how to be mindful of resources. When we know that if 5 kids out of 10 are going to bed hungry while others are actually throwing food away, it's what systems or education we can put in place to be mindful of those resources. So be mindful as to how we can either share some of those resources, or it's just, I don't think there have been a lot of thought put into processes and rules that could teach the general population how to be mindful of those resources. Because I'm sure if 5 out of 10 kids are going to bed hungry, it's because probably, I don't want to blame the other 5 that are going to bed with a full stomach. Is just be mindful of, not overusing our resources, or learn how to share them. So, it's lack of really putting a system in place to make sure that everybody's aware of what resources we have and which ones what we can share.
So the next question is, when one group says their rights need to be met, and that conflicts with another group's rights in another area, how do we prioritize? So it's a good question, and I also think that we have to look at a whole 360 degrees of what we are talking about, what group, and just, I can see many things, and looking at the privileges, looking at the oppressions and racism and all forms of oppression, and we'll have to look at the whole history and who get impacted by, right? Especially right now that the world experiencing, like the Palestinians and also Israelis. And there need to be a conversation in this community because we have both party belongs to this community, and we're not addressing it equity with justice. So how could we prioritize one and favor one particular group when we know that there's a history of oppression against a particular group? So I want to look at those and have those conversations in our community, because if we want to create a sense of belonging, we can't just say, I'm just going to celebrate this group and you are the minority, you're going to have to wait. For me, everyone needs to be celebrated. If we want to have an equitable rights for everyone, and not just equitable rights, but also justice for everyone. I myself need to learn and relearn a lot of the things that I've been taught or ingrained growing up. So I encourage all of us, and then also the whole community of Revere, to also learn about the history and relearn and do it right.
I find it difficult to also have to decide how to prioritize whose harm I would try to minimize, or whose equity I would work to make more in the situation. I think it relates back to, again, being a parent. Where's the bigger emergency? People in my city going through issues will be very much more apparent to me than someone across the world who's suffering. And so people in my community with ties there that are able and willing to share their stories and their need allow me specifically, but our community, to come together to support people in their times of need when someone's need might be higher. Maybe it's seasons, maybe it's a time of year, maybe it's times of war. We can only succeed moving forward if we come together and are able to work together. I myself prioritize people in my community, and that's why I'm a part of this commission. I dedicate my time, allocate more time to do things in Revere and be a part of making things better in this community, as I know all of my fellow commissioners do. And I appreciate the people that can bring in outside worldly experiences and connections that I myself don't have and wouldn't otherwise be able to get if it wasn't for TV or talking with people.
Great points. Reiterate again, two colliding or opposite viewpoints, and how do you come to a resolution on a real, difficult situation, conflict, what have you. Knowledge, understanding the history of something, very important. I think there's something to be said for, getting the parties together, airing your grievances, in a respectful manner, and open your hearts, really. And, there just doesn't seem to be enough of that. There seems to be, people shouting over one another and not really listening to one another. And it's just gone crazy like that with the internet and social media and all that stuff. That's been my experience. Very difficult problems, but the only hope of really making any progress or any resolution, I think you really need to sit down and really have difficult conversations, just like we have with the HRC the past couple of years, and they will continue, and in the community, and like Attorney McGee mentioned, I think it's very important to really the community part of it. We might not have the power to change things on a global level or something like that, but we can make changes in our community. We can make a difference right here, and that's what we're trying to do.
This is a question that I've also struggled with myself on very not so serious issues, but just conflicts between friends and family. Just like how can we? But obviously that principle also is applicable to things that are much more bigger than us. For example, like the Israeli and Palestinian conflict, and I think it just comes down to what you said, Karu. It's just like there has to be a conversation being made between two parties to come down to a compromise. Because one thing that I've seen is that one side wants to compromise and the other side does not. Or at least that's what I've experienced throughout my entire life. And the things are going on internationally. It's like one side wants to compromise and the other one does not want to compromise. They want to take over the situation itself under their control. And I think that's why we see the United Nations have meetings the way that they do. These are more than 100 countries coming together to find a common ground, and that's how this Declaration of Human Rights came to be. It's like it's something that everyone has compromised and has agreed that this is what we expect for our nations to be fulfilling, and that's how I ultimately think is gonna solve a lot of these issues when we have members of the community from any side come down and be like, this is what our issues are, this is what your issues are, where's the common ground between us, and how can we overcome the stuff that, like, how can we live with the differences that we are in a very, very sociable and peaceful way. These conversations aren't happening, you know what I'm saying? And people in some part of the country, most people don't want these conversations to happen. It's either my way or the highway, and it just all comes down to the system that I mentioned in the previous question about, like, we live in a capitalistic society. I want everything, you know what I'm saying? And ultimately at the expense of others. We may not realize it on a very superficial level, but deep down it's like, oh yeah, Shema, you're getting this, but keep in mind someone else is suffering. We don't think about it, but when we do, that's ultimately what it comes down to. And it also comes down, like, that's why, you know, I can say that I have privilege, because the reason why I'm here is, it has some connection with the suffering someone else. And these are like the conversations that have to be had in order to get that common ground. But since those aren't happening, then we'll never reach a common ground.
How do you prioritize between two groups who have different opinions, right? I agree with you. If regardless of the differences, and two groups are willing to compromise and to accept that let's work together, let's respect each other, there is not even the need to think about which one you prioritize. However, if there are those who are not willing to come together or do not, or through their beliefs or opinions are harming others or not respecting others, I think that makes it easier to not prioritize them, but definitely put them at the bottom of the list. So it's just being able to recognize the need to work together while respecting each other. That's all it is. There's not even the need to think about who you prioritize or who you put at the end of the list. You put yourself at the end of the list when you are the one who you're not trying to compromise or respect others. That's it.
This question probably will take us I don't know how many hours to really talk about it. I'm just going to say a few words. It all comes down to power structure, status, privilege, and ways in which a particular group has taken the rights of others. And it has to do with this issue. This issue actually, it's it begins with civilization. To be honest with you, so and it got exacerbated certainly in a capitalist society where groups of people believe that they have more rights than others, they have more privilege than others, they have accumulated more wealth than others, and they have the right to oppress others so that they can continue to gain dividends. So it's basically it. And that certainly conjugated with ideology, power and dominance, and the whole problematic about colonization, it makes the situation even worse. What's happening in Palestine, it happens here with minority population, it happens here with African Americans who have been deprived for many things and other minorities. So it's an issue that is with us. It's incumbent upon us to work with many constituents, work together, and try to address it little by little. So each one of us is an agent of change. Each one of us should work towards make a difference within the sphere of our influence. We should not wait for great powers to come and resolve it, or somebody from another place to come and resolve it. Change starts with us, change ends with us, and change ends with our community. Okay. The last question under the medicine wheel is, what can we do to make sure our intent matches our impact in making human rights equal and equitable? I'm going to repeat this question. What can we do to make sure our intent matches our impact in making human rights equal and equitable? I think it's by holding each other accountable. It starts with us doing a self-reflection, an introspection first, looking inwards and see who we are. And then from there, work with others, bring others into not just calling out people, but also calling in people and making sure that what we say gets implemented. It's not just for the sake of saying it, but making sure that we do what we say. And if we say we're going to do things for our community, for our families, for many other constituents, we hold those values and we hold those orders. It's basically making sure that we hold each other accountable, but also hold, ourselves accountable. I think it goes both ways.
I think one thing to make sure that we are not going to repeat the history of harms and learn from that, and then also embrace the voices of the community and looking at equity and justice that people who holding powers and have the most will, the opportunity to share that power. I believe that the community have abundances of, have enough abundance to share. And whom has privilege, share that privilege. Most importantly is that the voice of community is so important, and how we embrace those voices and 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 share that powers and privilege. And I think one of my fellow commissioners had said that just think about, Commissioner Hosseini had said that sometimes, and most of the time, you benefit from people that you are, that has less privilege. So holding people accountable is important, and most importantly, holding myself accountable, ourselves accountable.
Being an activist here as a commissioner reminds me of choosing to be an attorney, and it's a profession that I have to use my words to help people, to make a point, and I have to use my words very carefully. But timing is everything, going back to when the question was read to us. So I'm constantly trying to say the right thing at the right time and be on time when I say it. As commissioners, we're all working together all the time, trying to say the right thing at the right time. On behalf of the Human Rights Commission in Revere, we're under a lot of pressure. This is being recorded right now on Revere TV, and it will be on YouTube. And so we talk a lot about what we're going to say here and using our words carefully. As we know, every single one of us has a power. I think on this commission and people in general in life, I always remind myself, and I say, use your power for good. So use your energy and do things in a way that will ripple effect good to the people around you in the community that you're in. So I always want to work with all of my commissioners to keep doing that. And I feel that that's my biggest call in this work, is to use my voice to speak for people that can't speak, vote for people that can't vote, attend meetings for people that aren't invited to be there, and otherwise use my voice in a place where maybe my words wouldn't be spoken, and do that with the community's blessing or on their behalf.
Yes, I mean, need to work going forward with all these points raised by my fellow commissioners, intentionality, holding each other accountable, showing up's important. Just showing up's important, right? Just having an open mind, having an open heart. And I think, working locally, like I said, if everyone works locally on the challenges in your community, if we start there, I think that's probably the greatest impact that we'll have. And I know we've had challenges as a commission the past several years, and we're still here. We overcame them, and we move forward. And I'm excited to think of the young generation coming up in this city, because I think that's exciting to me. A lot of these young children don't have, I think, some of the certain, opinions or hangups of, maybe some of the older generations. And so I think, that's what we need to do. And, we will make progress and again, use our voices for good, and to try to help people.
Thank you. I think whatever I'm going to say is just going to go along with what everyone has already mentioned about having people keep holding us accountable, but also holding ourselves accountable. And I think the first step to that is that are we mentally prepared to take on to be at fault? I think it's a natural human instinct to be like, no, this is not my fault, and we're always on the defensive. Even before the issue has arose, and then you see it like, oh yeah, if anything happens, I already know what my defense is going to be. And this is just the way that society has kind of sculpted everyone to be like, is like always be prepared to like defend yourself. But sometimes it takes a moment of vulnerability to really learn. And it's like, this is something that I didn't even learn from being involved in politics or the Human Rights Commission. It was like through sports that I had to learn through this, where it's all like, no, stop making yourself the victim, do something about it. You know what I'm saying? If there is an issue, you know what I'm saying, don't already be on the defensive, be like, okay, so what the issue is. You know what I mean? How did this issue come to be, and what is the plan going forward? Because if we spend so much time be like, oh, this is not my fault, this is all your fault, we waste so much time doing that, and like we really ultimately just miss out on what the point of the issue is. Like, the point isn't that it's your fault. It's like the fact that it's an issue now, what are we going to do about it? So that's how I'm going to answer that question. It's just like, yeah, are we mentally prepared to be like, okay, maybe this is my fault, but like, okay, moving on, what is the plans going forward, and how can we prevent this from happening again? And that's ultimately why we record these meetings too. It's like we can go back and be like, so what did we say? Like, what did we promise in that meeting, so that we can make sure that everything is going the way we want it to be, even if no one comes to us and holds us accountable. You know what I'm saying? That's why, like, sometimes, every now and then I do go back to the meetings back in 2020. I'm like, so are we still doing what we're doing? Things that we've promised in the past couple of years? If not, how can we go about it? And I feel like that's something we should definitely implement as we move forward with the commission, and just like dynamically assess the situation that we always find ourselves in. So that's my opinion.
So again, yeah, checking ourselves, definitely holding ourselves accountable is huge. We're humans, so naturally we're selfish in a way, right? But when we have leadership roles, we have to really check ourselves out and make sure that we're doing things that are for the greater good, that we are using our positions to lift others. Not everything, not all the time, is going to be perfect. There will be roadblocks on the way. We're going to make decisions that we may not be proud of. But if we acknowledge that, I'm sure the following day we'll be making decisions that will be better for the greater good, to bring others, to lead the way. So as long as we recognize and acknowledge that it's okay to be selfish here and there, it's okay, but also be mindful of the privilege that we have in our leadership positions and being sitting here today. What can we do? So definitely checking ourselves out first, but be mindful of what we can do and that we should do. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, all of my fellows, commissioners. Those 4 questions are great questions and great conversations. Thank you for sharing those thoughts and opinions. So we are going to check out. So for the checkout round, there's a question: what is your commitment to human rights? So my commitment to human rights is showing up.
I wish I could be of such few words as my fellow commissioner. My commitment to human rights is speaking up.
My commitment to human rights, try to, show up, try to, have an open mind, open heart, and like Claudia was saying, use your position, for good, within the community and any opportunity that you have.
My promise to human rights is to not only be able to flow like water, being able to change my state of thinking, not to be a static individual, and just learning how to be a learning human being. But at the same time, when I do have something that I'm confident on, to really stand with my confidence and be adamant on what I believe in. Because the minute you have fear, you have a vulnerability, and that's a hubris for a lot of people, rather than keeping it as a vulnerability to make it into a strength.
My commitment to human rights is to use my position to lift others. Yeah.
My commitment to human rights is to live up to my values. My core values is when I see something is wrong, speak up with courage, with intentionality, and be vulnerable when I need to be, and always challenge the status quo in a good way. Okay. We're closing. I just want to thank you all. I admire your perspectives and viewpoints expressed throughout this circle process. It's always good when we do sit in a small circle like this, talk about all kinds of issues that we want to see changing in our environment. We touch upon even on issues that matters the world internationally, and that's the way it's supposed to be. We talk about human rights, whether it's in Angola, in Cape Verde, in the United States, in Mozambique, Australia. It's really, we're all humans. So I appreciate your perspectives, the depth of knowledge that you brought into this circle, and the way you have shown up, and yourselves throughout the process, the way you behave throughout this process, by really talking about a variety of issues. I truly appreciate it, and I really mean it. So we're going to close with the following quote from Eleanor Roosevelt. Where, after all, do universal human rights begin? In small places, close to home, so close and so small that they cannot be seen on any maps of the world. Unless these rights have meaning there, they have little meaning anywhere. Without concerned citizen action to uphold them close to home, we shall look in vain for progress in the larger world. That's so true. We just spoke about accountability, right? If we say that these rights do matter, then we have to hold ourselves accountable and for those words, and do it in a meaningful way. Thank you. It was a great pleasure being here, learning from you and learning with you.
Thank you. It's okay. as this meeting has a circle and the meeting has come to an end, is there anyone on Zoom that would like to express any opinions or anything that we could talk about until we proclaim an end of the meeting? No? Does anyone have any other businesses to bring up before we conclude this meeting? All right, may I please now ask for a motion to adjourn? All right, and this, at 6:25 p.m., the meeting has adjourned. Thank you, everyone.